Now, a little earlier, we spoke to Morocco's ambassador to South Africa, Youssef Amrani, and he talked to us about the country's reintegration into the African Union and what he saw as a path to a final political solution for the disputed Territory Western Sahara. Well, to give us a bit more analysis on this North African state and region, in fact, I'm now joined in studio by Africa Analyst Gideon Chitanga. Thanks so much for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Well, let's talk about North Africa generally. I mean, it seems to be one of these regions where conflict still continues unabated. And I spoke to the ambassador, and they just don't seem to have, particularly in this Maghreb, an integration in their region. Why is that, and what needs to happen?
I think you summarized it so well. The Northern African region is not progressive well in terms of our regional integration. So if you look at the main countries, Libya, Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, you take Egypt, you take Mauritania. Morocco is the most stable. Tunisia and Algeria, they are going through a political transition and they are fairly unstable. I think Egypt now is a bit stable, but it has had its own issues. Libya is the major issue, and there's an intersectionality of local domestic interests, regional interests, and global interests. So this is a region which is very unstable. I think that regional integration has historically failed because primarily the major actors have been inside looking, but also there's a lot of instability. There are cases of terrorism that is linked to a sense of the international understanding of terrorism, and the generation of leaders who formed the Arab Maghreb Union have not been able to move beyond intra-rivalry to come together and work together. But having said that, there are opportunities, and I think that there is an interest from an emerging generation, including of the citizens of Northern African countries, to focus on what keeps them together more than what divides them. And I think these are economic interests and settling issues like Libya, which would allow the region to move forward.
How much influence do the former colonial powers still have in the region? Because I mean, I think of Morocco in itself, and 3 former colonial powers involved just in that region alone. Yeah,
the structural effect of the histories of colonial domination, they affect how we think and look at ourselves. But also it is important to note that these countries they are amongst the earliest countries to get their independence and freedom compared to Southern Africa, for example. And I think that we should not undermine their agents. I just think that the indirect influence of the major metropolitan colonial powers has been there, but it's not the major issue. I think the issue is for these countries to redefine themselves, and I think recently to look into the global continental interest and to be part of the African continental drive for integration, so that they can channel their energy, political will, and their socio-economic and human resources into rising up continentally with the rest of the continent, including also dealing with issues of political and security, which are major challenges in the region.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that integrating with the rest of the continent, because there are some people who felt that, you know, this sub-Saharan African story and this North African story, they never quite felt they're part of the rest of the continent, and maybe perhaps felt more at home in the Arab world.
It's a dominant perception, it's a dominant paradigm, but obviously much of all of North African countries now are part of the African Union. It is also important to mention that Morocco, Egypt, and other players are founding countries of the African Union. Morocco left because of its domestic issues and a sense of injustice from the organization of African unity, but it has come back. So I think there is an interest from these countries to be part of the African continent. This interest has not been fully utilized, I guess, by both, in the case of Southern Africa, so we can say both Southern Africa in the sense of the SADC region and Northern African countries, including West African countries. The relationships and the interactions have not been deliberate and strategic, more focused and more driven. And I think that each country needs to focus on that. We need to see more interaction, not only at political level, but at business level. And I know for sure that Morocco has been on an overdrive to invest mostly in much of West Africa. It's a financial sector, it's big companies. It's been involved in connecting West Africa to North Africa and creating a channel for the transmission of gas to the West. So if this is extended and by all other countries to say, let's focus on the economic interests and improve the livelihoods of our people, let's solve the political and the security issues that affect us, including those issues that divide us, whilst we converge on key beneficial issues. That's
we
better.
Ran out of time, but is the Western Saharawi question solvable?
Yeah, I think it's solvable. I think that for me, secession, which is proposed as a solution by other actors, can be a problem. If you look at South Sudan, you'll understand what I mean. The war, which was initially a domestic conflict, resulted in a split after a referendum. But that referendum did not solve the South Sudan issue. The Sahara Republic is a small strip. It might have a strategic value, but I think that the major solution is more good governance, more inclusive governance, instead of continuously breaking African states and fragmenting them. So a more collaborative, pluralist, inclusive approach, it can eventually deal with this situation in a permanent way, but also providing for the economic needs of the people, because I think that's a major urgent need for both the mainland Morocco but also the Saharawi. And I think these are issues that are being addressed.
All right. Gideon Chitanga, we're going to have to leave it there. Unfortunately, we ran out of time. But thanks very much, as always, for your insights on issues on the continent. I'm sure we'll pick another country and another issue in the near future. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to take a quick break. And straight after that, the world of sport.